Joe Vardon covers it for The Athletic. He joins us now on the Rich Eisen Show. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. It is beautiful here today in Boston.
Beautiful. Like beautiful day to win a championship. Beautiful.
Well, I can tell you this, Andrew. The Boston's finest are leaving nothing to chance, and already all along Causeway and all the feeder streets are guardrails. Boston Police and the Liquor Commission are telling the locals here that you cannot go into a bar after halftime, I believe. If you're already in a bar, you can stay, but you can't go into one after halftime. They're also trying to clear the streets immediately around the arena. There was a big crowd down here in Game 4 while we were all in Dallas, and it made them nervous. There was a huge police force here, Game 4, I'm told. And so tonight, as of yesterday, the bar owners from here all the way past the north end, all the way into the center of the city, they were all told about, closing your doors to new customers, like preparing for craziness in the event of a celebration. So regardless of what you and I think about the end of the series maybe coming tonight, Boston Police and city administration certainly are preparing as though that's the case.
Joe, stay there. Let's bring in card-carrying Boston fan Chris Brockman.
Hey,
bars like that makes no sense. I mean, I get it from a safety perspective, Joe. I totally understand that. I don't know that I've ever heard anything like that.
I've never heard anything like this. It seems like that's not going to go over well with the certain Fitzes and Sullys there in Boston, but I'm curious. I've never heard anything like this, Joe. Have you?
No. Well, this is my ninth finals. I missed the year that it got pushed back and Team USA was playing at the same time. So that's where I was. But otherwise, I've never seen this, and I've had some finals that were closed out at home, even in Denver last year, and there turned out to be some unfortunate violence. We didn't see this. We didn't see the closing of bars, closing of streets, that kind of thing. And I remember walking back from the arena to the hotel. Like tonight, they're talking about to get to certain hotels, you'll actually need an NBA security escort.
Wow, that is wild.
Like way late, after we do all of our work.
Wow. Talking to Joe Vardon here from The Athletic, who is there in Boston covering what I think will be a Celtics closeout victory tonight. Much like with the bars, the Celtics have been, blocking the Mavericks at halftime as well from participating for the rest of the game. I just can't see, Joe, despite their valiant effort on Friday. Again, in retrospect, it seems like Luka just kind of went, listen, I know I'm going to be ripped by most of the NBA media and world and doubted now heading into the next offseason, so I may as well just show up and we might as well do this tonight on Friday to save face. I know that sounds negative and sarcastic. I just can't see them mustering that again tonight.
Yeah, I don't know that they mustered anything more than they had given in this series. I just think Boston played a pretty undisciplined, pretty unfocused first half. And just, you kind of get into that mentality of, we have more chances at this. The first two quarters didn't go well, and then they were totally run off the floor early in the third quarter. I thought Dallas's game plan is the same. The starting lineups they use are the same. Jason has sort of said, we're not a lineup switching team. That's not in the position they're in. So I just thought Boston didn't do as good of a job targeting Luka on defense and running him through that grinder. I thought he played a little bit better. He didn't complain to the officials. And then offensively, the Mavericks were able to get a couple of runners at the rim and also get to that corner three. But the numbers were still basically Luka, Kyrie, and then everybody else until garbage time when Tim Hardaway Jr. made 5 threes in the fourth quarter. Like Kyrie and Luka, and then I guess Lively were their only 3 players in double figures. So I think I lay this a lot on Boston. Dallas certainly didn't quit. They didn't lay down. But this was a Celtics situation. Jason Kidd was right. He said that the Celtics were ready to celebrate. I expect a much more focused effort tonight on the part of the Celtics, but we have to remember, other than game one, this has been a close series. And actually now, because of the blowout in game four, point differential wise, Dallas is actually leading the series. So all that's to say, long-winded way, Boston's going to be better tonight, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's enough to get it done.
And look, I understand what I said sounded negative and sarcastic, and I get it. I also realize that if Luka hadn't fouled out of game three, then maybe this is an entirely different conversation. And to me, Joe, that is the massive what if. Like the massive what if hanging over this series. What if he had not fouled out?
Yeah, I think so. There was a bunch of time left in the fourth quarter, enough time. And actually, they were only down 3 when Luka goes out. They actually cut it to 1. Another time they had a look at it, they were only down 2. So you have to say something like that. At the same time, Luka wasn't really moving well or playing well for him. You'd love to get him in a closing situation, though. So yeah, the same thing could be said for Boston in the conference finals. Like they sweep the Indiana Pacers. It's a legitimate sweep. And there were some things that happened at the end of 3 of those 4 games that absolutely could have and maybe should have gone the Pacers' way. So you could either chalk that up to some luck on the part of the Celtics, or you could say that they are making plays in crunch time when they need to, which had been an Achilles heel for the Celtics teams of the past. But they're on the verge of doing it. And, I think you and I both kind of have that feeling that maybe it is tonight.
Yeah. Joe, what's the deal with Porzingis tonight?
Yeah, he's questionable as of now, and they're saying that the idea in 4 was they were going to use him in a very specific situation, which to me means that they don't have a ton of faith in how he's moving. And you're thinking about like if you've got to guard an inbounder at the end of a quarter, something like that. I've seen him on the floor shooting and moving a little bit. So, like, if they can get to him tonight, does he do more? Maybe, but the fact that he was active for game 4 and didn't step on the court for 1 second tells you that you wonder how much of this is symbolic and just making sure that one of the most important players on the team is in uniform when they win a title.
Talking to Joe Vardon of The Athletic, he is in Boston in advance of game 5 this evening. I don't know that you're writing the legacy column yet, but if you were, after a Celtics win tonight, what would you write about Jason Tatum tomorrow?
Andrew, my job here at the finals for The Athletic is I write our game story. So the first thing that goes up, and then we write it through, and it's the thing that sort of carries the traffic at night while we write our think pieces. But for a championship story like this, there is a narrative involved, and I've been thinking a lot about it. And I just go back to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown getting a chance now to say they are Celtic legends. I don't think there's any way you can argue it. The amount of times these two players have been to conference finals and then have gone to the finals now twice already. They're both still under the age of 30, and they're going to win a title. And so now they count, and you wonder what happens from there when they have that, the proverbial monkey off their backs. And now they're playing, I don't know if carefree is the right way to say it, but they have achieved the thing that everyone said they couldn't get. And when that happens, like how many more are to follow? Like this team is built to last. Brad Stevens has done a tremendous job. And so I start there. I start with Tatum and Brown together. When so many points in their careers, there's been suggestions made that they don't work as a pairing. And the Celtics doubled down on them and put the players around them to make this team work with those two. We have a Drew Holiday now running the show in Boston. He's a great defender, but also he can keep the cars moving on time on offense. And that has helped. Porzingis' presence has helped. And then it's kind of allowed Jaylen and Jason to be a little bit better themselves in crunch time. So That's where I start. And, it's funny. I mean, some of your people know that I'm from Cleveland. I've covered a lot of Cavs games in my career. I've actually covered more Celtic playoff games in Boston than I've covered playoff games in Cleveland now. So that's a testament to how dominant they've been over these 10 years. And you have to suspect that there's a lot more to follow.
I love the Al Horford angle as well. That's got to be part of your game story tomorrow.
I think so. I mean, he's the oldest player. Not oldest is the wrong word. I think he's played the most games without winning a finals to then finally win one. And if you think about the way that LeBron dominated the East for so long, and you think about all the different players whose careers that affected, certainly Tatum and Brown, the beginning of their careers, no question. You think about Kyle Lowry, and you think about DeMar DeRozan in Toronto. You think about even going all the way back to the first part of the century, like he ended the Detroit dynasty, and so on and so forth. But Horford was as impacted by LeBron as any player in the Eastern Conference, because in that span from 15 through 18, while LeBron was in the East with the Cavs, Horford was on the Hawks teams. And then he was on the Celtics teams that kept getting bounced in the playoffs. So for him to kind of endured everything that he has, and then he returned to this team in this city, couldn't get it done against the Warriors. So here they are now, and he's on the precipice. And so, yes, absolutely a wonderful story.
And Joe, because you mentioned it, I would now be remiss if I didn't ask what's going on with the Cavs, even though you're knee deep in the finals, before we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think there hasn't been a lot that's changed from when it all ended for them here in Boston, and we had the big story that said JB was probably going to be let go, and if they signed Donovan, which they think they're going to, that Darius Garland would likely ask for a trade. All of that is still on the table. Right, they have dismissed JB Bickerstaff despite having improved each year under him. They did it because they knew they had to change voices in the locker room. And a lot of that has to do with the future of Donovan Mitchell moving forward. They think he's going to sign. They think, and we have reason to believe that that's the case too. So assuming he does, now you look at, well, okay, do they feel like they have to trade Darius Garland? They're saying they don't feel like they have to. They're saying that pairing works, but obviously there's some discomfort on the part of the players there on both sides, I think, to even suggest this. So they have to go through that. And what can they get for him? Does the Evan Mobley and Jared Allen pairing work? The Cavs will say, well, there's numbers to suggest that it does. Their numbers together are okay, but they're not elite. This is a team that wants to be elite. Can they be if they change their style and get assets for one of those two? So, there's a lot up in the air. It starts with the coach. They have some candidates. They've done interviews in person with a number of them. So, I think shortly after the finals, I think we'll probably have a decision there too.
And if we had more time, we'd ponder the question, what do the Guardians do when Gavin Williams hopefully comes back from his rehab stint? But we'll save that for another time. Joe in Boston, not going to be locked out of the bar. He's actually going to be in the arena this evening. Joe, stay safe, please, will you? Good to talk to you.
Great to talk to you as well. Thanks for having me.
Joe Vardon, everyone, from The Athletic in Boston, where the Celtics look, in my opinion, to close out, I think it's going to happen, the Dallas Mavericks this evening.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.